From broken to billionaire. The courthouse steps felt like concrete daggers under Sarah's feet as she stumbled out into the harsh Seattle sunlight, clutching a manila envelope that contained the remains of her 20-year marriage. Inside those papers was everything she had left: custody of 4 children, $50 in cash, and a restraining order that meant she couldn't return to the house she'd called home for 2 decades. Her ex-husband had made sure of that. "You'll never make it without me," Michael had sneered during their final meeting, his new girlfriend smugly sitting beside him as lawyers divided up their life. "You've been a housewife for 20 years. You have no skills, no education, no connections. You'll be begging to come back within 6 months. Standing on those courthouse steps, holding the hand of 8-year-old Emma, while 12-year-old Jake tried not to cry, Sarah felt the crushing weight of that prediction. She had no college degree, no recent work experience, no family to help her. Her own parents had cut contact years ago, disapproving of her marriage. Her friends had been Michael's friends, and they'd all sided with him in the divorce. At 42 years old, she was starting over with less than most teenagers had in their piggy banks. But Michael had underestimated something crucial about the woman he'd dismissed so carelessly. Sarah Martinez didn't break. She bent, she bruised, she bled, but she never, ever broke. "Mommy, where are we going to live?" whispered 10-year-old Sophia, her youngest daughter, tugging on Sarah's worn jacket. Sarah looked at her 4 children, Jake, Emma, Sophia, and baby Miguel, who was barely walking, and made a promise that would change everything. "We're going to build something better than we ever had before, and no one will ever be able to take it away from us again." She had no idea that those words, spoken through tears on courthouse steps, would be the foundation of a $30 million empire. The first night was the hardest. Sarah's sister had reluctantly agreed to let them stay in her basement for a few days, making it clear this wasn't a permanent solution. The children slept on air mattresses while Sarah sat awake all night, staring at the ceiling and calculating their impossible situation. $50, 4 children, no income, no home, no plan. Most people would have applied for welfare, found government housing, maybe taken whatever minimum wage job they could find. But Sarah understood something about survival that only people who have lost everything truly comprehend. When you have nothing left to lose, you can take risks that comfortable people never could. The cleaning idea came from desperation, not inspiration. Sarah's sister had mentioned that her neighbor, an elderly woman named Mrs. Chen, was looking for someone to help clean her large house. "She'll probably pay $20 if you're lucky," her sister said dismissively, "but I guess it's something." $20 was nearly half of everything Sarah owned in the world. She knocked on Mrs. Chen's door the next morning, her resume consisting of nothing more than 20 years of keeping her own house spotless and 4 children who could vouch for her attention to detail. Mrs. Chen was different from what Sarah expected. At 78, she was sharp, successful, and had built her own real estate business decades earlier when women weren't supposed to be in business at all. "Tell me why you need this job," Mrs. Chen said, studying Sarah with eyes that had seen enough of life to recognize authenticity. Sarah could have lied, could have made up some story about wanting extra income. Instead, she told the truth. "I'm divorced with 4 kids. I have $50 to my name. I need to prove to my children that we can build something from nothing, because if I can't do that, I don't know how we're going to survive." Mrs. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that would change Sarah's life. I'll pay you $50 to clean my house, but I'll pay you $100 if you can clean it better than anyone ever has before, and tell me exactly how you did it." Sarah spent 8 hours on that first house, working with an intensity that bordered on obsession. She didn't just clean, she studied every surface, every corner, every detail. She made notes about what worked, what didn't, how to be more efficient, how to achieve better results. When Mrs. Chen inspected the house, she was speechless. Not only was it cleaner than it had ever been, but Sarah had reorganized problem areas, suggested improvements, and left detailed notes about what she'd done and why. "Here's your $100, Mrs. Chen said, handing over the money. "And here's my question. Why aren't you running your own cleaning business?" Sarah stared at the money, more than doubling everything she owned. "Because I don't know how to run a business. I don't have equipment, supplies, insurance, customers. I don't know anything about anything." Mrs. Chen smiled. "I know plenty of successful people who started with less knowledge and more money than you have. The question isn't what you don't know. The question is how badly you want to learn." That night, after putting her children to bed on air mattresses in her sister's basement, Sarah sat at a computer in the local library and began researching everything she could find about starting a cleaning business. She didn't have money for fancy courses or business consultants. Instead, she became a detective of success, studying every free resource she could find, calling other cleaning services to ask about their methods, pretending to be a potential customer, and most importantly, paying attention to every detail of what made her own cleaning different from everyone else's. The breakthrough insight came from an unexpected source: her 8-year-old daughter, Emma. "Mommy," Emma said, watching Sarah practice cleaning techniques in their temporary living space, "you don't clean like other people. You clean like you love the house." Emma was right. Sarah didn't just clean houses, she cared for them. 20 years of maintaining her own home, of creating a space where children could thrive, of treating her environment like it mattered, had taught her something that couldn't be learned in business school: the difference between cleaning and caring. That distinction would become her competitive advantage. Within a week, Sarah had her first paying customer, Mrs. Chen's friend, who was willing to pay $75 for Sarah to work the same magic on her home. Within 2 weeks, she had 5 customers. Within a month, she had more requests than she could handle alone. But scaling a cleaning business with 4 children and no resources required creativity that would have impressed Silicon Valley entrepreneurs. Sarah couldn't afford professional equipment, so she researched the most cost-effective supplies and bought them in bulk. She couldn't afford advertising, so she made her work so exceptional that customers became her marketing team. She couldn't afford employees, so she trained her older children to help with age-appropriate tasks, turning it into a family enterprise that taught them business skills while helping support their survival. "We're not just cleaning houses," Sarah told Jake and Emma as they helped organize supplies in the back of her used Honda Civic. "We're building our future. Every house we clean perfectly is a step toward never having to depend on anyone else again." The children embraced the mission with enthusiasm that might have seemed sad to outsiders, but felt empowering to a family that was writing their own comeback story. Jake, the 12-year-old, became the logistics coordinator, planning routes and organizing schedules. Emma, 8, had an eye for detail that rivaled her mother's. Even little Sophia could sort supplies and help with simple tasks. They were building more than a business. They were building an identity as a family that didn't just survive hardship, but transformed it into strength. The first major breakthrough came 6 months after that courthouse day. Sarah had been cleaning for a wealthy family in Bellevue when the owner, a successful tech executive named David Kim, asked her an unexpected question. "Sarah, have you ever considered expanding beyond residential cleaning? I run a small tech company, and we're looking for someone who can maintain our office space with the same attention to detail you bring to homes." Commercial cleaning had never occurred to Sarah, but David's office became her laboratory for understanding business client needs. She discovered that commercial clients wanted reliability, consistency, and discretion even more than perfection. They needed someone who could work around business schedules, maintain professional appearance, and understand that their workspace reflected on their company's image. Within 3 months, Sarah had contracts with 5 small businesses. Within 6 months, she had landed her first major corporate client, a law firm that paid more for one building than she'd been making from 10 houses. But success brought new challenges that would have broken someone with less determination. As demand grew beyond what Sarah could handle personally, she faced the terrifying prospect of hiring employees. Her experience with marriage had taught her that trusting other people with things that mattered to her was dangerous. What if employees didn't meet her standards? What if they stole from clients? What if they destroyed the reputation she'd built one perfect cleaning job at a time? The solution came from an unexpected realization. Instead of hiring people to work for her, she would create opportunities for people to succeed with her. Sarah developed a training program that was unlike anything in the cleaning industry. She didn't just teach techniques, she taught philosophy. New team members learned not just how to clean, but why quality mattered, how their work affected people's daily lives, how pride and craftsmanship could transform any job into a career. More importantly, she hired strategically. Instead of looking for experienced cleaners, she sought out people who reminded her of herself 6 months earlier. Women going through divorces, single mothers, immigrants starting over, people who needed opportunities more than they needed jobs. "I looked for people who had been underestimated," Sarah explains. People who had something to prove, who understood that this wasn't just about cleaning buildings, it was about building lives. Her first hire was Maria, a recently divorced mother of 3 who spoke limited English, but worked with the same desperate intensity that Sarah recognized in herself. Her second hire was Janet, a 50-year-old woman who had been laid off from a corporate job and told she was too old to start over. Both women became not just employees, but co-architects of a company culture that treated cleaning as craft, customers as partners, and every job as an opportunity to prove that excellence wasn't about credentials. It was about caring. The business grew with systematic precision that would have impressed Harvard MBAs. Sarah developed protocols for every aspect of the operation: client communication, quality control, supply management, employee training, and most importantly, customer service that made clients feel like their spaces weren't just being cleaned, but being cared for by people who understood that environments affect lives. But the real transformation happened when Sarah realized she wasn't just building a cleaning business. She was creating a platform for other people to rebuild their lives the same way she had rebuilt hers. "I started hiring women in situations similar to what I'd been through," Sarah reflects. Single mothers, divorced women, immigrants, people starting over. And I realize that when you give someone a chance to prove their worth, they don't just meet your expectations, they exceed them. The company's reputation grew through word of mouth that money couldn't buy. Clients didn't just recommend Sarah's team because they were good at cleaning. They recommended them because working with Sarah's company felt different. It felt like supporting people who cared about their work, their clients, and each other. Corporate clients began requesting Sarah's team specifically, willing to pay premium rates for service that treated their businesses like they mattered. Residential clients became friends, referring neighbors and colleagues, not just because the cleaning was exceptional, but because they wanted to support a company with a story that inspired them. 5 years after that courthouse day, Sarah's company was cleaning over 200 locations across the Pacific Northwest. She had 15 full-time employees, most of them women who had found in her company the same opportunity for reinvention that she had found in that first $100 cleaning job. But the numbers, impressive as they were, didn't capture the real story. The real story was in the lives that had been transformed. Maria, the divorced immigrant, had become Sarah's operations manager and was sending her oldest daughter to college. Janet, the woman who thought she was too old to start over, had developed systems so efficient that other cleaning companies tried to recruit her. And Sarah's children had learned lessons that no classroom could teach. That setbacks aren't permanent, that families can create their own security, that success isn't about where you start, but how determined you are to keep moving forward. The children had grown up watching their mother transform from a broken woman on courthouse steps into a confident businesswoman who employed dozens of people and served hundreds of clients. They learned that businesses weren't mysterious entities run by special people with special credentials. They were solutions to problems created by anyone willing to work hard enough and care deeply enough. Jake, now 17, was planning to study business with the goal of eventually expanding the company into new markets. Emma, 13, had developed an eye for operational efficiency that impressed everyone who worked with her. Sophia, 15, was interested in the customer service side of the business, understanding instinctively how to make clients feel valued and heard. Even baby Miguel, now 6 years old, would sometimes accompany Sarah to job sites, watching how his mother interacted with clients and employees with the same caring attention she brought to everything else in their lives. The 10-year milestone brought an opportunity that forced Sarah to confront how much her life had changed. A national commercial cleaning company offered to buy her business for $30 million, more money than she had ever imagined owning, enough to secure her family's future for generations. But the offer came with conditions that made Sarah pause. The buyers wanted to standardize operations, reduce labor costs, and implement efficiency measures that would maximize profits while minimizing the personal attention that had made her company successful. They wanted to buy the business, but eliminate everything that made it special, Sarah reflects. They saw our caring as inefficiency, our personal relationships with clients as unnecessary complexity, our commitment to employee development as a cost to be minimized. The decision forced Sarah to confront what success actually meant to her. Was it the money? The security? The validation of building something valuable enough for others to want to buy? Or was it the opportunity to continue creating opportunities for others, to keep building something that mattered beyond profit margins, to prove that businesses could be both successful and soulful? Sarah's answer came when she looked at her team, women who had found in her company not just jobs, but paths to rebuilding their lives. She thought about her clients, who trusted her team with their most important spaces. She thought about her children, who were learning that success meant creating value for others, not just extracting value from systems. She turned down the $30 million. Instead, Sarah used the interest in her company as validation to expand on her own terms. She opened a second location, then a third. She developed a franchise model that allowed other women in similar situations to start their own cleaning businesses using her systems and support. Most importantly, she created a foundation that provided microloans and mentorship to divorced women and single mothers starting their own businesses, understanding that the most valuable thing she could share wasn't money, but knowledge and hope. Success isn't about reaching a destination, Sarah says today, standing in the headquarters of a company that employs over 100 people and serves thousands of clients across multiple states. It's about creating opportunities for other people to discover what they're capable of when someone believes in their potential. Today, when Sarah speaks to groups of entrepreneurs or divorced women starting over, she always returns to the same central message. Your current situation isn't your final destination. The courthouse steps that felt like the end of everything were actually the beginning of everything that mattered. When Michael told me I'd never make it without him, he was right about one thing. I couldn't make it as the person I had been, Sarah reflects, but he was completely wrong about who I could become. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to discover that you're capable of building something better than you ever had before. The woman who left the courthouse with $50 and 4 scared children now employs dozens of families, serves hundreds of clients, and has created a company culture where caring isn't just about cleaning. It's about caring for each other, for clients, and for the belief that everyone deserves opportunities to prove their worth. From courthouse steps to corporate boardrooms, from $50 to $30 million in value, from broken housewife to inspiring entrepreneur. Sarah's story proves that sometimes the most devastating endings become the most empowering beginnings. But perhaps most importantly, her story demonstrates that true success isn't measured just in money earned or businesses built. It's measured in lives changed, opportunities created, and the proof that anyone can transform their worst day into the foundation of their best life. The question isn't whether you'll face moments that feel like endings. The question is whether you'll have the courage to treat those endings as beginnings, to build something from nothing, and to prove that your current chapter isn't your final story.